Okay, a special note here. I'm actually filming 2 videos in one night. So when you see the next video posted in a few days and I'm wearing the same shirt and basically look the same and everything, I assure you I do shower and I do not wear dirty clothes for extended periods of time. No, I'm a very, very hygienic and everything. It's just that I filmed 2 videos in one night and you'll be seeing that one in a few days. But I did want to talk about the 2 endings to the pay-per-views, the recent ones, No Surrender and Night of Champions. Saw No Surrender, did not see Night of Champions because I was at a football party. So that was actually the first one of between the 2 major companies. That was the first pay-per-view I've missed in a while, since Against All Odds, I think. So yeah, I've actually been pretty good about watching the pay-per-views this year. Although I do have to comment on this. Ring of Honor, when I said that they will never get my money again for how poorly they handle their internet pay-per-view streams, I cannot believe they haven't gotten a handle on that. It happened again this week. It's unbelievable, and it just justifies my comments and that I have no desire to spend my money on their pay-per-views because they just seem completely incapable of putting on the show without some kind of major problem. It's just mind-boggling. I don't understand it at all. All that said, let's get into No Surrender Night of Champions. I thought No Surrender was a good show overall. I did enjoy it, so I guess you could say that was another one for TNA. However, the ending I thought was kind of anticlimactic, and 2 reasons for that. Number one, they did this whole thing with the Aces and Eights where Hogan had to put the Impact Zone on lockdown, and they had cops surrounding the ring and everything. And it actually had some cool visuals, and just the visual of having so many cops surrounding the ringside area made me think, it's like, oh, something nuts is going to happen, you know? And I thought they were going to do something crazy and something major in terms of storyline development. And what they went with was just, oh, so the injured babyface just wins the tournament and that's it. And, you know, how many times have we seen that? I actually thought maybe that with Hardy injured, like, Samoa Joe would somehow get inserted into the finals, and that would tie him into the Aces and Eights or something. I don't know. I kept racking my brain of what they were going to do for the closer, and they pretty much just went with the same thing that we've seen tons of times. Injured babyface wins tournament, and, you know, whatever. And there was no payoff to having all the cops surrounding the place and, you know, having the place on lockdown. It's just kind of just a normal ending. And the other reason I thought it was anticlimactic is that I thought Hardy was the least interesting option to win the series. I didn't expect Storm to win because he's going to be facing Bobby Roode. But I thought, you know, Bully Ray or Samoa Joe, to me, are candidates to possibly be tied in with the Aces and Eights. And I thought Austin Aries would be facing the leader. And I thought that's where they were going to go with this. And I'll give TNA credit. I still don't know where this is going. And who's ultimately going to be revealed as the one that's behind it all. So kudos to them to actually, in the internet age, actually having a mystery angle that's still somewhat surprising. I mean, it's not since the Greater Power, really. Or who ran over Austin. That one was a surprise, too. But I mean, usually mystery angles get spoiled pretty quickly. Or they're so stupid, like when TNA did the whole "they are coming at 10-10-10" thing. I mean, everyone and their grandmother knew how that was going to go. But I thought there was going to be some kind of major development going on there with that in the ending. And to me, it just seemed like the leader of the Aces and Eights would be the guy that would win the Bound for Glory series. And then Hardy won is like, okay, maybe he's the leader, and what the injury angle was just a smokescreen? I don't know. But no, it was just, no, babyface wins, and that's it. And I'm like, that's interesting. It feels like they kind of just picked Hardy just for the sake of merchandise sales and marquee value, and that's all the thought they put into it. And maybe if they had done the story with him where, like, his 2012 for him is the road to redemption after his huge crash and burn last year at Victory Road, and this was going to be him, like, redeeming himself and finally getting the title, maybe that would be good, but they didn't really make a point of that throughout the entire Bound for Glory series. Not really. If they did, I don't remember hearing it. He was just kind of another guy in the series really. I mean, and, he would have really good matches and he would get a few big wins here and there, but he didn't feel like Storm was obviously the one that really felt like a big player. Joe felt like he was a major player throughout the thing, and Bully Ray obviously was a major focus. So it just seemed a little weird that they went with Hardy, and it's that thing that we criticize Cena for, where they put him in these spots and they make everything about him just because he sells merchandise, and that's kind of feels like what they're doing with Hardy there. It's like, well, because he's Jeff Hardy, we got to put him in this spot. And that kind of, is lacking in artistic integrity, in my opinion, but because there's just not a whole real interesting story there, and based on what I've seen on Impact, they haven't really done anything to really sell me on the match either. I'm still kind of ho-hum towards the match. Will it be a bad match? No. Well, if Hardy shows up in, a sober state, it'll be a good match. But I'm just not seeing like the dramatic character clash that I would want to have for a major main event of what's supposed to be the biggest pay-per-view of the year. And again, I touched up on it. Jeff Hardy, because of his history, there's a lot of trust issues there, and the internet reports, which take those with a grain of salt, say that he's fine now, he's clean, he doesn't do drugs anymore, and he's shows up on time, and he's great. And I'm like, all right, that's all well and good, but trust is a very fragile thing, and his history is not in his favor, and I'm kind of just sitting there waiting for him to fuck up and pull another Victory Road 2011, which was easily the biggest black eye in the history of TNA. So big, I'm surprised it didn't kill them. Like, I thought, they'll be dead in 6 months, and no, didn't happen. They've actually kind of gotten people to sort of forget about it, which is stunning. I mean, wow. I don't hear as many people talk about that anymore as I would think I would, but, Hardy, I just don't... I'm not seeing, like, outside of obvious, merchandise and marquee value, I'm not seeing anything there that really makes me understand why he's in that spot. And I just wish there was something a little bit more meaty there going on that would make me want to see that match. But maybe they figured they have that blood feud with Storm and Rude, so who knows. But I thought the closing to No Surrender was kind of anticlimactic. And to get into Night of Champions, like I said, I didn't see it, but I did read the results, obviously. And, the whole ending to Punk and Cena, ending it in a draw, to me, again, is very anticlimactic. And people often say this about DQ finishes, but, sometimes it's true. It's depending on how they do it. But with a draw, you're not getting a winner at all. You get nothing. It's just like, oh, well, you just sat through this whole thing and there's no winner. And, pay-per-views are very expensive, especially WWE pay-per-views. I think they're like $45 plus taxes. And you're asking people to pay that much money, and you don't give them a winner in the biggest match on the show that had the best storyline, the best, at least the best heel. And, you didn't give them a finish. And I'm like, wow, if I'd actually paid to see the show, I probably would have felt like I pissed my money away because there's no ending. It's just kind of lackluster in that sense. And, I understand they're going to do a rematch. They didn't do what TNA did with the Rude AJ Iron Man match, where they did the draw and then on Impact they did the clean finish, or the definitive finish. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, that's a slap in the face that people paid for the pay-per-view. But, I understand they're going to do a rematch in Hell in a Cell, assuming Cena can go, given his arm surgery. And that match will have the finish. You'll have a definitive winner in that one, and that's fine. But, I mean, would it have killed him to let Punk go over here? Or, if they don't want to do... if they don't want to give a finish to Cena and Punk right away, why not hold off on that match, save it for Hell in a Cell, and then at Night of Champions do like Punk versus Sheamus to unify the belts? Because you know me, I want that fucking world title just dead and buried. Just get rid of the fucking thing. And then at Night of Champions do like Cena versus whoever, I don't know, for number one contendership to the unified world title. That would have been fine for me. I would have, Cena versus Del Rio. Let's say that. Cena versus Del Rio for the title shot at Hell in a Cell. There you go. With the unification matches as the main event. I would have been, and you could have done that, try to get at least a couple, big matches in there, and then give people a finish, and you have one unified champion. That's a big ending. And we already kind of got the draw, no contest finish at Raw 1000 with these two, and I thought, well, they're going to have a singles match down the road, and that'll be the one that you pay for, and you'll get the finish that you pay for, and you'll pay $45 for it, and then they don't give you a finish, and that, I don't know, that just strikes me as very anticlimactic, and they won't make that mistake with Hell in a Cell, but again, I paid $45 once. I mean, I'm speaking, if I were a paying customer, which I wasn't on this particular show, but if I were a paying customer and I paid $45 for a show and there was no ending in the main event, there was no winner, and then they turn around and ask me to pay that much money again for the other pay-per-view, I'd kind of be like, you know what, fuck you. It's like, really, you and your tomfuckery there. That's great. But, I mean, they've done worse endings. I mean, TNA and WWE have done worse endings. This is not like the most horrible, heinous crimes that they've ever done. I'm just trying to make the point that bad endings can kind of really lessen a show. I mean, remember how mad I got when... Bound for Glory last year was really not that bad of a show, but because they did the whole fucking thing with Rude at the end, and, really ended the show on such an anticlimactic note, it kind of ruined the whole show for me. I wasn't that impressed with Lesnar and Triple H at SummerSlam, and it really made me think less of SummerSlam, maybe more so than it deserved, but I just wasn't impressed with that main event. And so a bad ending, it's the same thing with movies and television as well. A bad ending can totally... ruin the story and kind of ruin the experience. People to this day still talk about how much they hate Matrix Revolutions because the ending makes no sense. Of course, I have many other problems with that movie besides the ending, but I don't think a good ending would have, or even a mediocre ending would have made it any better. But yeah, a lot of people go to the ending and it's like, well, that sucked. And Mass Effect 3, which is a video game, which I don't understand the appeal of having storylines in video games and why the story in a video game is judged so harshly, because I just want to play the fucking game. And maybe that's just me being an old fart. It's like, look, when I was a kid and I played video games, I had a plumber that jumped on turtles and saved a princess from a castle and a fire-breathing dragon. That's all I needed. Save princess from dragon. That's all I fucking need in a video game. Just let me jump to platforms and get my power-ups, and that's all I need. Like, any dialogue boxes, unless it's like a clue to help me advance the game, like in Legend of Zelda, then it's like, I'm just going to want to skip the cutscenes and the dialogue boxes and just go play the fucking game. But again, I'm in a minority there, and that just shows that I'm an old fart. But a lot of people were pissed off by the ending to Mass Effect 3, and that's all anybody talked about, was how shitty that ending was. And I'm like, of course I'm sitting there thinking, well, how was the game? Was it a good game at least? And everybody said, yeah, it was great. All the things that made the other games great were here too, but it's just that ending just pissed me off. And I'm like, oh, well. Okay. It's like, but yeah, that happens. A bad ending can ruin things like that. And, the flip side of that is that a good ending can save a show. The episode of Raw where Punk cut that epic shoot promo, that episode of Raw was horrible. But that ending was so cool that was all anybody talked about. The Nexus, the birth of Nexus, that episode was easily one of the worst episodes of Raw of all time. But that ending was pretty sweet. So, and that's all anybody talked about after it was done, because that was the last thing they saw, so that was kind of their last impressions of the show, and that's the thing that's freshest on their mind. So, the ending to a show is very important, and it should be handled delicately, and, hopefully Bound for Glory turns out well and they don't make any silly mistakes there, and I don't think you'll get a schmoz finish in Hell in a Cell. That would surprise me. Again, we'll see if Cena's ready to go. Actually, I think if... Because there's a shitload of time, 5-6 weeks, I think, until Hell in a Cell, so hopefully Cena's all healed up by then. And you'll get that match, but it's just... I'm a little surprised there's that much time between Night of Champions and Hell in a Cell. That might be a record for WWE, minus the time between the February show and WrestleMania, but... yeah. But yeah, that was basically the point I wanted to make. How bad endings can kind of, take away from the show as a whole. And I'm not saying, like I said, these aren't like the worst things that both companies have ever done, but it is what it is. And yeah, that's all I've got for now. I also wanted to comment in the bits of Raw I did see, and I hate to say this because this is going to sound really cruel and really horrible. And I still wish Jerry all the best. I'm glad to hear he's doing better and that he's home now and everything looks like he's going to be okay. And, obviously he's not out of the woods yet. The healing process is going to take some time. It's going to take him a while to recover. But, and again, this is going to sound horrible, but the commentary on Raw this week was so much better without him there. Having JR there to make things sound important and JBL there to actually be funny and make great lines. I think, didn't he call the Funkasaurus a sea monster that was trained by Justin Bieber? And Damian Sandow, the whole vocab lesson thing. I mean, JBL made that so funny. Temerity's a big word. What school did you go to, Cole? I mean, stuff like that's fucking funny. And then all the talk about temerity when Damian Sandow won the match. He said, well, he won with temerity. That just cracked me up. I thought it was a really smart and really funny joke. But so the commentary was just so much better without Lawler there. And I know that sounds horrible, but he was a shitty commentator. I don't know what to tell you. But JR and JBL really freshened things up, and I wish they could stay there and be the permanent team, quite honestly. And, because he, didn't have to argue with Lawler for 3 straight hours, Cole was at least reserved. I mean, if he said anything dumb, okay, fine, but at least he was more reserved this time around. And JBL and JR are pretty much just allowed to do their thing and do it quite well. So, yeah, I did want to comment on that. The commentary was just so much more improved. But yeah, that's all I've got for now. I hope you all continue to enjoy watching whatever wrestling you do watch. And for those of us who are football fans, we hope you're enjoying the season. My team, we're 2-1, but I still got a lot of question marks about how good we really are. I wasn't happy with the season opener, obviously. And I'm still I don't trust our secondary that much. I mean, yeah, we whooped up on the Panthers tonight, but was that a one-time thing, or is that going to be the norm? We'll just have to wait and see. I like the 49ers, quite honestly. In the NFC, I think they're by far the best team right now, but again, that could easily change because it seems like nobody's able to find. Very few teams have been able to find any kind of consistency so far, and we're only at week 3. Of course, I'm talking consistency at week 3, but baseball's really heating up. We got I'm living in the Washington D.C. area. The Nationals scored a playoff berth for the first time ever, so that's really cool. Everyone's excited. I hope my Baltimore Orioles continue the pace that they're on and actually make some hay come playoff season for the first time in what seems like an eternity. Let's have a Nats and Orioles World Series. I'd totally be in favor of that. That'd be awesome. This area would go crazy if that happened. But so yeah, that's enough wrestling and sports talk for now. I'm done boring you. So I'll see you all later and enjoy your weekend.